guys, BBI here. I want to stop and say thanks for tuning in and checking out whatever the video is about that's about ready to come up next. If you could take a minute and hit subscribe, I greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoy what you've seen here, make sure to hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate your support. Anyhow, guys, all that aside, let's get on with the show. Gentlemen, ladies, and dogs amongst all of you. Look, I got a bunch going on today, but I got to get the intro to this so I can show you what we're starting with. So you'll have something to compare it with when we're done, other than me just simply going, oh, look, the box is done. So this gentleman sent me this amp. It's a 16 pill. It's pretty scooch and filthy. I mean, we've got unmelted solder down in here. We've got this transistor isn't even soldered down here. If we look real close, we got the same thing going on here and the same thing going on there. There's a whole lot of little things here that we've got to change and clean up. The other thing we got to do away with is this wire crossing, this coax here crossing over the outputs. That causes so many harmonic issues. So we're going to upgrade the power wires, 1. 2, we got to change out this Dean's connector plug thing and make it so that it'll work. This is unsafe. This here is completely unsafe. Put that in perspective. So I got to make this a little bit more permanent of wired in situation. We're going to clean up some stuff. We're going to beef it up. We're going to turn it into a monster. We'll test it and see what we get out of it. And then I've got a 1x4 that's built in a Texas Star case. Look at this thing. It was made by Cocaine Charlie. Pretty cool looking little box. I'm afraid to open it though. I'll show you. Check this out. It's in like a Texas Star 250/350 case. And there's supposedly 1 drive and 4 in this thing. I gotta save this power plug. So this will be last. This 16 pill will be first over here. So anywho, on that note, I'm off to go answer the phones and do a bunch of other stuff, but we're gonna rip all the power wires out of this and we're gonna upgrade it and turn it into something that I call mine. So, and then I'll probably take some carb cleaner and clean this off and actually give you real stickers on the back. But we'll get you squared away. So give me just a little bit, we'll be back. We're gonna replace all these resistors. There's some stuff in here you can do, and then there's some stuff in here that I'm not a fan of, so we're gonna change it. So on that note, I shall return. Real quick, let me jump in here. I wanna show you something. That I just unsoldered this power wire. Let me take this out of the way. Look at the bottom side of this wire. There's not any solder on it at all. So then we look underneath where it was soldered down, and it was hooked up here and a little dribble over here. So all the current that was running this whole box was running through this little dribble of solder off the top and this little dribble on the side. That's why we don't do things like this anymore. Okay, so we're halfway through the strip down process. We've got all the resistors out. Half the transistor screws are stripped. On this side, this transistor wasn't even screwed all the way down. This one had a screw that's not, hole isn't drilled all the way through the heatsink, so I'll have to come back and chase that. And then we got a bunch of little stuff, like I didn't even notice this when we were first doing the first video. Like I said, there's stuff that's not even soldered down. This is wired backwards here. This isn't enough induction here. This remote, I don't even know what to do here. This is a mess. They got the inputs and the outputs backwards. They've got like this doorknob. This is all wrong. So I'm just gonna strip it completely and start completely over. The teardown's complete on this one. Pulled out all the mini coax. We got all the transistors out. Half of them were literally not soldered down. The ground tabs were soldered to each other. It was priceless. As I'm sitting here looking at it, I'm noticing that these caps are woefully inadequate. The coax links on the input side, they weren't the same, but Of course, they were all crossed. So we're going to do a quick cleanup on this. We're going to give it a bath, and we'll be back to it tomorrow. So on that note, we shall return. Oh yeah. After seeing this is our ground hookup, by the way. There's no eyelet in that, and they just had it stuffed underneath the washer on the bowl. And then looking at the thing after, see now, I went through and I redid all the solder work on all the pill strips, and then I washed the amp. And once I got all the flux out, or all the heat conductive cream out of the pockets, I realized we had a serious problem going on. If we get down here and look, none of these holes are chamfed. So not only are they stripped, but they're all got a lip on them. Every single one of these. Every single one of these. So this is where the aluminum is balled up. And I can't, that's not thermal compound, that's balled up and pushed over aluminum. So what happens is you put a transistor down on there and it won't sit flush to the heatsink. It's just making contact through the screws. Hence the reason this thing has probably kept blowing transistors for years and years and years. So that's when I realized, okay, these heat sinks have got to come out. That, and they're not properly drilled. There's not enough holes in them. We're missing some bonding points here. The other problem is the way that they're spaced on the amplifier. They're sitting about that far apart. So the heatsink stock is great, but there's no place to put any power wires. And if we're going to tear this thing all the way down like we've done, now out of the cabinet all the way down to the heatsink, I got to go put this thing in a bandsaw, and I've got to cut one fin off of here and one fin off of here, so I've got room for power wire down the middle. Because we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. There goes the damn phone again. Son of a bitch. So I was saying before the phone started ringing, I got to go back and I've got to drill out each one of these little holes, make it so they got a smooth the edge, and then we got to go back through and we're going to have to sand and polish each one of these, and then I got to cut a fin off and make room for power wires so we can do this properly. So, yay. Fun times, right? At least they managed to make it all the way through the heatsink with their drill bits. Got that going for us, I guess. Alright, I shall return. Let's go make some noise on the bandsaw. Well, what we've done here is we've taken heat sinks that sit this far apart. And we've removed one fin. Everything's sanded, there's no sharp edges. It's been perfect. So now we got a nice safety, or nice wide safety margin for power wires. So now we're gonna refit the board for a minute. I got to add a couple more holes to this thing so it's actually mounted in here properly and safely. And we're gonna start punching holes in it for power wire. So away we go. Oh no, wait a minute! I gotta chamf out these holes. So you can hear my fingers hitting the top edges of the holes. So I gotta go through and so give me a second. When I first started this, I didn't think that I was going to have to tear this whole damn box all the way down to the very beginning just to make it right for this poor guy. But this is what I do. Make it right. Yay. Alright, well I skipped over the whole part forcing you guys to watch me polishing the heatsink and that whole 9 yards. So I got the molybdenum make you cause cancer and a third eyeball grow out of your testicle stuff on here. So I'm going to pull the tape, mount the heatsink, and then I got to clean my workspace off. It's getting a little crowded and a little... I can't stand it when I got little pieces of metal like this laying around and stuff. So let's get the heatsink mounted back up, and it's officially the turning around point. Now we get to build the thing back up and make it so it's, well, something pretty and something that's going to run like a raped animal. Shall return. So slowly turning into how to take a turd and turn it into a gem show here. Oh well, we'll make a winner out of it yet. The joys of this job. Okay. So, what we're picking up now is we've entered our holes here for our power wires coming out and our power wires coming in. It'll way beat that blue wire that wasn't even soldered down to anything. Carry a whole lot more juice to the parts that drink the juice. So now, we're going to flip it over, we're going to install the power wires. And then I got to thoroughly clean the cabinet because it's disgusting on the inside. So, get the cabinet cleaned up. I'm going to lay this in the amp. We can pull the little blue tape. We can start putting transistors in it and getting things soldered back into one piece. And we can start putting this thing back together right. Slow but sure. Well, we got all of our parts finally pulled out that we're going to take out of it and turn back around now. So what we did is we went in here and we put 8 HGs here. And put 8 more HGs here. Now this thing had to sit for half a day and dry after we gave it a bath. Well, we got it all cleaned up. It's dried. Now I'm going through and I'm building all the parts that we're going to put back in this thing to make it work. Because this hibby-jibby bullshit don't cut it. The other thing we did is we replaced all the hardware on the outside of the box because all of it was either corroded or wrong or wrong or wrong. Or wrong. So first I'll rebuild this side. I've already started to put the 5 ohmers in here. I'll put a couple 5 ohmers here. We'll get this all straightened out. We're going to get rid of these little tiny capacitors in here. We're going to put, well, stuff that we know that's going to last in there. I'll flip it around. I'll do the other side. Then we're going to go string the coax in it. We'll put the power wire in it. And now we're done there. We're going to come and rebuild our relay section. And then we'll get our remote done last. We're going to test our fans and see if they're adequate. And then we'll go from there. Man, that's a brave cotton picker right there calling me at 12:30 at night. My phone's over there in a corner ringing. Anywho, I'm just over here working away. All mounted back in the cabinet. Turn back around. We shall return. Well, here we are again. So, both the right and the left sides are completely reassembled. All the capacitors are now in place. Coaxes are all tied in. We had to re-glue these down to the board, our input and output splitter combiner units. We're getting set up to do our power wire distribution and hand make all of those parts. I was sitting there looking at it and I'm like, it's missing some pieces and parts, so I went ahead and I added them. There's no disc capacitors on the positive rail to help throw the positive rail out of resonance. They're there as kind of an AC suppressor or filter. Really how it affects the circuit is it drives the capacitance level up so high, otherwise it's referenced to ground so high that the RF doesn't want to go that direction for anything. Helps isolate it. And there's not a whole lot left in here I haven't had to touch or rework. So put the power distribution in it, then we'll put the input coax in, then we'll focus down here on the output relay and get our remote all wired up proper and straight. We'll tune our pass through. We'll put the key and transistor on this side of the relay instead of that side of the relay, make it so the positive wire doesn't have to go as far. Actually put a choke on the positive wire going off the relay to the remote. And then I got to bring a positive wire over here to run the on-off switch. I replaced the on-off switch in the front of the box, so it's brand new. Put a brand new LED in it because the ones that were in there were, well, like everything else, shit, for lack of a better word. So we'll get it fixed. I'll put new induction coils in it, and input and output, tune the input, tune the output, and we're done. And check our fans. So that's where we're at. I'm going to call it a night, you guys. It's 1:30 in the morning. It's taken 4 hours of my evening to get this far, so yep. I'm going to hit it again tomorrow and we'll be finished. So when we get back, these will be done. They'll be in here to make it look all nice and pretty, and we'll get our input and our output rings put together and get our input coaxes done, and then yeah, so when I come back, the power wire will be in. Next up, yay! Well, it's all done. I'm sorry, guys. I let you guys down. I got out here and started talking on the phone with my friends, and no one was calling in and no one was bugging me, and I just started building at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and we got her finished. So, short of the tuning process on this box, it's got the new keying circuit in it. New input induction, all brand new input coax, so nothing crosses each other. It's really important, by the way. So coax runs out and runs around and goes around this side of the amplifier. Got a brand new output tuning tube. This thing was just too aborted to do anything with. Wired up the new remote plug for you. We got rid of this aborted mess, took it out, heat shrinked everything up nice and solid for you, made sure the heat shrink was big enough that the strain relief was actually grabbing onto it. Got rid of the 1/4-inch mono jack and went ahead and put a grommet in there. Extended our leads out, put our chokes on our positive rail, installed our positive distribution network, so now every transistor's got a nice, clean, good, solid source of power. We've upgraded the power wire, changed the transistors, changed out all the resistors in it, rebuilt the input splitter so it had the right number of turns in it, rebuilt the output splitter so it had the right number of turns in it, reinstalled these with new glue that's actually on there, unlike before. Put a brand new on-off switch in it with a brand new LED, and went around and did some of the finishing work, like, I don't know, put a button in here instead of just leaving that open like it was. Tune the input pass through. What I mean by that is letting the RF go in and come out. Let's take a look at what it looks like live. 27 megahertz. We've got a 1.073, so that's a 1.03 capacitance bump coming through here, which is scooching good. Put an actual ground strap on it. All new hardware to hold the heat sinks on. Took the heat sinks out, polished them, cut them so we'd have room for our positive rail wires to go underneath and come out the way it should be. All new screws holding down all the transistors, all new mounting hardware to the cabinet case itself. So about 80% of this thing is new. Literally 80%. There's a couple things in here I'm a little on the fence with, but we're going to wait and see how it works out for the tune. So now that I'm done with this, stop, power off. Let's take this delicate piece of equipment out of line. We have the driver that we need to do. So this thing's about 90% done. I still got to clean the in and the out off of this. We got to go and put vinyl on it. We got to label the front end of it. We got to test the fans, but all the hard lifting as far as this thing is concerned is completed for right now. So now, let's set that aside for the moment, and let's go over here and look at this. This is going, or was going to be, its match driver. This is a Cocaine Charlie 1x4. This is in a Texas Star, like 250 cabinet. And yes, this is the original Texas Star power wires right here. So what we have in here is potentially 4 good Toshibas and one 2290 that's in upside down and not soldered. Well, it's soldered in on 3 of the 4 legs. But I'm pretty sure this one's toast. If there's ever been power put to this box, it's garbage. So, I mean, our RF is going in through this resistor pack. This capacitor isn't even hooked up. There's so much going on here that I'm going to sit down, I'm going to think about this for a little bit. I'm going to go have me some dinner. And I'm going to think about what I want to do with this. But that is a Cocaine Charlie 1x4. I give them props for originality, and it's a really strong use of the heatsink, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to struggle with reusing this or if I want to just do something completely different here. I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence. But that's what this used to look like. This used to look like that. And this was a lot of work. Now once I get it tuned, of course, this guy over here will lock down the capacitance tube, and then we're going to clear coat everything. That way it doesn't corrode anymore. If you guys can remember back, I spent probably an hour and a half the other day scrubbing the corrosion out of the inside of this box. I mean, literally just scrubbing crap out of this. Solder work in here is beautiful as always, nice and smooth and clean. Everything is firmly soldered down, it's not going to jiggle loose. I don't think we're going to have some problems here, but there's so much going on here. I don't know. I'll think about it. You guys will see my decision here in a few minutes. Like in a few seconds, but it's going to represent a lot of work if I go the other way around, but it's going to be less work to do it that way than it is to yeah. I think I'm going to call the customer and talk with him for a minute. Completed. Post. Pre. Give me a little bit. We'll be back. So, I talked with the customer, and he's being super cool about it. I just don't have it in me to fight through like what I did on this last one here. I just want to do it quickly and cleanly and be done with it. So, wow, did you know solder's hot? Shit. Man, these are some old transistors. But old does not mean bad. I'm going to pull these and see what we got. That's step 1. We're just going to work the numbers. Step 1, step 2, step 3, kind of like a 12-step program. It's radio anonymous, you know. Got some of them guys, they'd have a hard time working that third of that 4th step where thou shalt make amends with any person that they've offended or done wrong on the radio. Whew. Well, that's shoot. It'd take a hot minute. I'm gonna notice that for some guys, I'm going to take note and make it public record that the transistors were held down with drywall screws or sheet metal screws. So I can't stand behind this is the problem. Or if I go and I help this guy out a little bit and do him a solid, and go and put good parts, if there are any to be salvaged from this thing, into a newer box that isn't such a mess, I know he's going to have a lot more luck with it than this thing. So here's our 4 transistors. Let's grab our little atlas and get a clue if these are any good or not. And please note I'm leaving the driver in there because, well, this is the positive side and that's the negative side. And the positive rails to the negative and the negatives to the positive side, and there's a positive wire that runs across, a piece of 22 gauge feeding that. So personally, that 2290 is any good, it's a goddamn miracle, so I'm not gonna even mess with it. Gannon 25, this is a perfectly viable transistor. Gannon 22, perfectly viable transistor. You gotta wonder the story that these transistors could tell if they could tell a story. So I was born on 1988 in Japan, 23, that's a perfectly viable transistor. Oh, I'm getting a good tingling in my feelings about this. Schmeckle and my cackle starting to freaking get a little bit stiff. Got a buzz going on in my shorts. I'm starting to feel it on this. 23! Sweet, so they're almost evenly gain matched. And they're all good. Started life in so-and-so Japan. I come through port so-and-so. I got handled by so-and-so and I was originally installed in this thing. Then I went to so-and-so's shop and they took me out and they put me into such and such a thing. And it went all the way to so-and-so and then he ran it for a hot minute. And then it went over to so-and-so's shop and now I'm over at BBI's. If transistors could talk. Well, that's cool. Got ourselves 4 fairly evenly gain matched transistors. That are old as sin. But old is good. It does not mean bad in this business as far as this is concerned. Alright, let me get the copious amounts of thermal compound cleaned off everything and get this cleaned up. Now I'm going to show you what we're going to do next for this. I keep ordering one of these little cabinets because for some reason the 2x4 seems to be the biggest seller on earth. So I ordered this because I don't have a 2x4 of my own. I build one. It sits here for about a month. I use it in a couple videos and people call me up, "Oh, dude, how much you want for that 2x4 on your workbench?" And then I give them some crazy friggin' number and they're like, "I'll take it." So this will be like my 5th attempt at trying to build myself a 2x4. And it didn't happen. So it's the only extra cabinet that I got laying around here that isn't spoke for something at the moment. That's amazing to me. When I'm done here, by the way, and I just thought of this. When I'm done here, the 16 pill is going to be worth about $2,200, but the freaking 2x4 or the 1x4 that I'm getting ready to build This guy's going to be worth about $800. So almost $1,000 because it's going to have Toshiba's in it. It's crazy to think about it, but it's very true. It is what it is. Brand new. Virginal. So we're going to go from this, through magic, we're going to make that into this. Just saying, that's what's going to happen. Okay, so I skipped out shooting a whole bunch of the segment. I got on the phone, started talking, and I started building, and the next thing I know I was done. So we went from this to this. From this to this. $14 volts, 1,000 watt slug and peak, 1,000 in average, 50 watt slug and reverse. I gotta find my 5 watt slug. There it is. 2950, 5 watt slug between the 2950 and the Texas Star 250. Wink, wink, nod, nod. It's late. I don't feel like talking much more. This has been a very busy day. Long and the short, 950 watts my way. Not working, making a single watt their way. I'm done for the day. It's frickin' midnight. Rebuilt a 16 pill and built a 1x4. We'll test tomorrow. I'll put the little body plug in this thing tomorrow, and then I got to add some LEDs or something in this thing to make it look glow green. So, but 12879 HG, driving 4 Toshiba 2879s. Brand new case, Texas Star 250. Slightly modified though. Oh, good night. We'll wrap this up tomorrow. So I'm tuning this old girl, and down underneath this piece of wire that was holding everything down. Well, first off, let me back up. I'm tuning the old girl, and this port of the combiner is just getting hotter and freaking snot monkey, like hot, right? So it tells me, okay, let's go trace that out. And it says I have a problem here. So I go and I measure this with the old oscilloscope, and everything's working. So I thought, well, then it's got to be something that is conveying the RF from here to there. And the vehicle that we use for that is coax. So go and I test it with a voltometer. And it goes beep directly to ground. There's not a single thing in this box I haven't had to been, like totally leery of. Let me show you why. You see it? Alright, let's replace the coax. Son of a doodly. Son of a gun. Wanted to go over this to show you how hard this is for the casual eye to see. So even from this angle, it's just barely visible on where it's at. So if we fold this back together, somebody hit this with a pair of wire dikes at some point or another. But as soon as we put any torque value to it, it's pretty obvious what's going on here. Okay, so real quick, just a small preliminary test. We're on 14 volts with this box right now. About 20 watts of drive in it. Turn the amp on. About 200-300 bird. And well over 1,000 watts. Take that and go up to 2x. About 1150. And that's with a very rough tune on it. Okay, now that we got that established and we know that this is all working, we're talking through the box, input tune is low, the output tune is somewhat resonant. Now we can go ahead and we can drive the thing up, make the final tune for high output power, which is where we tune it. We don't tune it with low drive, we tune it with high drive. And let's see what we get. I think I'm finally on the home stretch of this thing. Let me bring the driver into play. Well, I'm tired, guys. I'm really glad to be done with this one. I'm here to tell you what. So, it's now come time for us to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. We've got our 16 pill completed and tuned. We've got our 1x4 completed and tuned. Okay. Completely. It's amazing what this looks like. It's just a standard Texas Star 250, right? Oh man, so let's go ahead and run through the paces. I'm going to first shut off the 16 pill. Let's show you what we got going on. 50 watt slug that sits between the 1x4 and the 16 pill. And then 1000 watt slug in 5X, 5000 watt slug in average, 5 watt slug in reverse back in the bird, 10,000 watt dummy load. Our 700 amp, 600 amp, or pardon me, 1000 amp. 1000 amp 600 volt amp ring, and our voltmeter at 15.4 that is clipped in internally up here, which would be technically the farthest place from the power supply. So first, let's show you radio drive. This is talking through all the boxes. So the RF coming from the 2950 going through the 5 watt slug, coming down through the 12 feet of coax, coming through the 1x2, out through a 1 foot jumper, across the coupler, into the amplifier, across the relay, out this coax connector, across that coupler, across that coupler, across that coupler, across that coupler, and then down 9.5 feet, or no, 12.5 feet, down to the dummy load. Staggeringly low is what I'm getting at. So let's go ahead and turn on the 2x4 or the 1x4. About a quarter of a watt output power. Right at about 1000. Pulling about 107 amps. Chooched. So let's go ahead and let's turn on the 16 pill. Watch what happens to our volts. Just down to about 14, which is normal. Human sustainable, right? 4,000 pretty steady. About 1,800 bird. And check this out. 3.5 to 4 watts. Between the 1x2 and the 16 pill at 4,000 watts output, about 1,800 watts out. Well, amp ring clamped out in time. Let's zero that. Show you how many amps are pulling. Wrong microphone, dummy. About 220 amps. Now that's going to wildly change. So now we've seen what it does on the normal mortal radio. Let's shed our mortal coil and then let's go with our hot rod radio. Our big flash, big number, bird number radio, which will be the D-row radio. So turn the 16 pill off. I'm kind of a little leery to do this test without any fans because we're going to make this thing work really hard. So now we're doing right at about 1,000 and right at 500 bird. No reflect. No reflect. Praise Jesus, here we go. Just short of 3,000 bird, 2,800, 2,900 bird. So we're seeing 320 amps. I'll set that there. 320 amps, and we're getting pulled down to 13 volts. Let's bump this up a little bit. Right at the edge of 14. There's our 3,000 bird. 340 amp draw. Telling you, this thing is screaming. So before I stay on this thing any much longer, I want to go and I want to put the lid on it. Now that we got all our voltages established, our input tunes established, the amp draw established, our output power established, I want to put the lid on this thing because I know that this thing is working its ever living guts out. So let me put some Captain tape on this thing, and then we're going to put the lid on it, and we'll test the fans that came with the amp, which aren't that great, but we'll see what we get. So give me a second. Well, here's the long and the short of it. Don't let this deceive you. The only reason that's spinning is because these other three are pushing the air out through this hole. This fan is garbage. The other three just seem to be working just fine. They don't have matching hardware, and they don't have enough hardware in the holes. So I guess I got to rebuild the hardware mounts, and I got to change this fan out. And hopefully I got something that turns at these RPMs. So let's see if they stay running after we hit it with some RF. So we're getting a 4,200 out of it. There, he's running just the way it should, but yeah, I can smell that fan is starting to burn up now. Needless to say, there's no way this box would have worked the way it came in here. There's been too many things broken with it. So I'm really glad the gentleman chose to send it up here. He's going to get a lot more enjoyment out of it. So let's get this fan changed out. Let's get all of our hardware changed out and make it pretty and nice and look right on the outside. And let's throw some vinyl on it, and I think we're done. Fan, hardware, wrap. We'll be done with this thing, I think. Give me a second. Okay, Mr. G. New fan. Here's your old one. It is burn up toast. All new hardware except for, let's see which nut. This one here. That's a rivet of some kind, and I didn't want to mess with it. So, anyhow, all new mounting hardware, new fan. Everything's all hooked up. Make sure this is all working. Of course, 1x2 or 1x4 again. Yeah, everything's the same. It's working. Hey, we're done. Oh, I'm done. So, since I'm not going to reuse any of the hardware, got one little drop of it. That's what I've got to go and reinstall. So far, no. This is what we've done so far. This is just a general collage of what all is missing. Stripped, broken, bad, corroded, wrong, that I needed to change. Oh yeah. Hold on. One more thing. so glad that I did not take on the challenge of rebuilding this box. I'm going to send this back as well. Put the lid back on it. Oh. And yeah, all of those. It's your transistors. I'm going to send it back. Let me know if you want me to test these or not. But, yeah. This thing's working. Working like a party rock star. So, let me clean up my mess. I got a couple of little small ends I got to do to finish this up, and you'll see what they are when I come back. So, give me just a second. We're going to talk about this for another quick minute, and then I'm done. So, shall return. Done. Switchable. Done and done. Okay. Last bit. That's it. I'm done with this one, guys. I'm mentally out of steam, and this thing has fought me every single step. I mean, the last thing I had to do was just change power wires out, right? So that led to a whole bunch of other stuff, and then I ended up having to put LEDs in it for underlighting on the inside. Lid came off, then I discovered we had one more broken fan, which then I had to change because one of the mounting brackets was broke. I didn't catch it, one of the internal spar supports on the fan. I'm glad this is over with. This has been a struggle. The last couple days, I started on this on Thursday. I worked on this in between doing all the dispatching and stuff for the other business, and I think that's what really drug me down on this project. And the same thing with Friday, and a good portion of yesterday was consumed in rebuilding the 1x4 driver, and here it is today at 4:30 in the afternoon. I still got, I'd say, a good solid 2 hours of video editing ahead of me now. Just tired. Anyhow, brother, what you got yourself here is a brand new piece of 1/0 gauge Hyperflex with a hydraulically crimped and soldered and heat shrinked connection on the back. It'll work a whole lot better than this pile of crap, for a lack of a better term. Both your wire lengths are equal, so the current flow is the same. Brand new 5-pill. I am going to send back the other one, so if you want to cobble off that other crap plug that's on the end of that, go ahead, but it's going to dramatically affect the operation of the amplifier. So on that note, it's done. Completely brand new rebuilt 16-pill and a completely brand new rebuilt 1x4. Because I gotta go, I gotta start editing this video, and I have got to take a break from this for just a few minutes, and then I gotta come back out here, and I got some other production stuff that we've got to go do. I think we got 7 or 8 more that we got to take care of this weekend. Gentlemen, my name is BBI, and without a shadow of a doubt, I am the biggest mud duck in Idaho. Come check us out, www.bbiamps.com. Come find me on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. And if you're watching me for the very first time, and you appreciate the attention to detail, and you enjoy what you've seen, take a minute, click subscribe. Make sure to hit that notification button so you can follow along with everybody else. Guys, I've got to go. I've got other things I need to go do, and just the diligence of making sure everything was absolutely perfect took a whole lot more time today than I thought, and I'm trying to stay cheerful and keep a smile on my mud ducking face. So, on that note, I gotta go. Guys, let me grab a quick picture of this. I'll see ya.